A teenager has died in New Zealand after he was critically injured playing a game based on the controversial Runit craze. D'arcy Waldegrave hosts a sports program on New Zealand radio, and he explained why the viral Runit trend has taken off online.
Well, Run It Straight's something that actually came out of Australia initially, and you'll see it quite a lot over there on social media platforms. In essence, it's a small delineated area where two players run at each other flat out. One has a ball and the other one's attempting to tackle them, and there is a collision and someone gets wiped out quite horribly, sometimes knocked out, sometimes ends up lying on the ground convulsing, which is pretty horrible to look at. But it's gained a lot of traction over here because I think when it comes to social media, Girish, things like this people love to watch. It's quick, it's explosive, it's very, very aggressive. It's basically just like running a ball back in a game of rugby league into an opposing tackler, just with no teams and a very small amount of space in which to do it.
Yes, and we have seen, a real dark side to this, where a 19-year-old man, he died after playing a game that's based on the sport in New Zealand. What happened in this incident?
Okay, well, obviously not being there, knowing exactly what's going on, but everything we've discovered is that it was a social occasion. It wasn't an official Run It Straight game. Just some guys, a 19-year-old boy, thought they would have a bit of a crack and run hard at each other. And this guy got hit and he died a day or so later in hospital of his injuries that he sustained during this practice. It's something that's been in the news the last couple of weeks, Run It Straight, and other sports, if you could call them that, of that ilk. People have been obviously quite upset by it, saying there's no place for that in our society. And then what happened on Sunday, transpired through to Monday when he died, is that we lost a human being, and that has really started to trigger massive reaction over here about the legitimacy of the sport, whether it should be held at all. In fact, the stadium that's going to have the final of the Run It Straight, and there's $100,000 up, $200,000 up for grabs here, have decided they're not going to hold the final at their stadium because the backlash is too much. So it's pretty much ceased. Run It Straight, I believe, are also putting a pause on this exchange because of the unwanted media attraction that it's caused.
Yes, I know this was not an official event like you mentioned, but has there ever been any proper messaging from Run It Straight's organizers or those who run the official events to tell those who watch them, don't try this at home as they do in professional wrestling?
I don't know if they have exactly, but they've said that they've got everything they need in place as far as medics on site if someone does get knocked out, so they can attend to them. But you would think that in itself, people would look at that and go, this is not for the faint-hearted. This is something that could end up in a tragedy. And we've seen a number of videos of men, because it is men predominantly, running into each other. And a couple of these guys have flopped back and they've started pulsing and convulsing and dribbling, and it's brutal to watch. You think, and that alone, you go, this is not something I really want to engage in. These are big, strong men, a lot of them who play combative games like rugby league and rugby union, and they're used to those big hits. Now, people who aren't, it's impossible to tell how they'll react to that when they are hit. And look, it's physics. Great, big, huge men running at each other. In fact, I was talking to human performance professor from AUT, Petrea Hume, today on News Talk ZB, and she goes, it's not unlike falling off the first story of a building. That's what happens when you hit the deck. That's similar to these two bodies clashing when they're running at each other at full speed. So it can be devastating to whoever collects the worst end of it. If you catch a shoulder to the head or a shoulder to the jaw, you don't know what's going to happen. There are no real controls in this.
Yes. Can you give us a sense of how popular is it in New Zealand?
I wouldn't say it's massively popular, but if you climb on social media, there are a lot of people who are climbing in to check this action out because it's easily consumable. And that's how it came to our attention initially. It started circulating on Instagram, Facebook, and the like, and people dialed into that. And of course, with something like that, it keeps covering itself and goes on and on and on. The more people watch it, the more it gets in your algorithm, and it continues. There's another sport that's been, it's been started off by a UFC guy called Dan the Hangman Hooker. It's endorsed by Israel Adesanya as well on their video, where basically it's a 1 minute scrap, and the guys stand there with tiny gloves in someone's backyard and punch each other for a minute until someone goes down in a heap, or they call it a draw. That, again, is really brutal, not unlike Power Slap that Dana White from the UFC started off, where men or women stand there and slap each other in the face and people get knocked out. It's this extraordinary focused violence that people are buying into. And when there's money to be made, in fact, Gareth, there was a guy who won $20,000 a week or so ago in one of these Run It Straight competitions. And he said, look, I know it's dangerous, but the money I've won has given myself and my family huge opportunity. I'm prepared to take that risk. So when there's money on the line and you're in a position where you need that, who's anyone to tell you you shouldn't be doing it?
D'arcy, why do you think New Zealand rugby has had to disassociate itself from Run It Straight?
Why would they associate themselves with it is probably the bigger question. I think there's been a couple of high-profile rugby league people, George Burgess, Chancellor Klokstad, that were seen at these games, and they've since distanced themselves from that after what has happened. New Zealand rugby won't climb into this. Why would they? They've put so much in their space to help with concussion and tackling and head high and the like as well. For them to be associated with this in name alone in any way, shape or form is not really what they want to project at all. And because it's not legitimised, it's not a sport that's running under an organisation's banner, there's not a great deal anyone can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, D'arcy Waldegrave, really good to get your insights into this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Girish.